Hello everyone. My name is Sarah Call and I'm with the Travel and Tourism Research Association. TTRA unites the best and brightest with the travel and tourism industry, and we are so happy to have everyone here with us today. Today, we are welcoming Jeremy from Adara, Jessica from CJRW, and Eddie from Visit St. Pete and Clearwater, who will be evaluating the effectiveness of marketing strategies using advanced metrics and methodologies. Before we dive into it, I did want to mention that this webinar is part of our TTRA member webinar series. If you are a member and are interested in submitting a webinar like this, please stay until the end to see how to take advantage of this exciting opportunity. Now I'll pass it along to Jeremy.
Thank you, Sarah. We're so excited to have an opportunity to speak with everyone today. I'm going to go ahead and start to share my screen here, so just give me a second. All right, and we'll get... All right, so again, I'd love to thank the team at TTRA for, just allowing us to be here and just have a really what we feel like is going to be a really meaningful conversation, just in terms of measuring marketing effectiveness. We've got a great panel here, and really excited to just kind of talk about, the contrast here and the compare and contrast between, measuring marketing effectiveness from the state level DMO and the work that CJRW is doing with Arkansas Tourism, but then also, more at the local level, local at the county level with, some of the great work that Eddie is doing, for Visit St. Pete Clearwater. So just really quickly, my name is Jeremy Fairley. I'm the Senior Partner, Customer Success for Adara. Excited to have Jessica Fromm with us from CJRW, who's working primarily on the Arkansas Tourism account. And then also Eddie Kirsch, who is the Director of Digital and Data for Visit St. Pete Clearwater. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Jeremy.
Yeah, so gonna dive right in here, and I've got a couple of slides that I want to run through, but after that, we're really just gonna make this more of a fireside chat or a Q&A type session. So again, what we want to talk about today is measuring marketing effectiveness. And, as I mentioned earlier, I work for Adara, and a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today are some of the amazing work that, that Eddie and Jessica are doing, on behalf of, the destinations that they work with. But coming into that, they are working with us. And for those of you who, may or may not be familiar with Adara, we are the world's richest travel and entertainment data consortium. So with that, as you can kind of see here on the slide, there's a number of different partners and brands that we work with across the globe, over 270 to be in fact. And that includes airlines, hotels, online travel agencies, meta search, and even real estate, ticketing, and dining. So it's a very, wide breadth of partners that we work with. With that, that gives us access to over 2.1 billion global profiles that are connected to real-time digital actions such as searches and bookings and some of the others that I'll go through here in the slide in a little bit. But also, giving us that privacy-first identity graph, which is really, how we are able to link these identities and kind of using that future-proofing technology. And we'll have a larger conversation here about, how first-party data plays into that later as well. But then also, all this data and all these, actionable items, are based off of real-time behaviors that are allowing, Jessica and Eddie and their teams to activate and sort of enrich, all the marketing that they are doing. But again, for that global footprint, 2.1 billion rich profiles that include on average 30 plus data points per profile, over 2.5 billion hashed emails, which kind of lends to our, the privacy first nature that we work with here at Adara. But then again, some of the larger numbers just in terms of searches and bookings, 3 billion searches annually and 180 million air and hotel bookings annually. And again, that's just a lot of data that we have the ability to work with our clients on and help sort of measure the effectiveness of anything that they're doing, from a marketing perspective and understanding that ROI. So again, with that, there are a number of different what we like to refer to as data signals. And, a lot of those are going to be comprised around, search and booking activity. So being able to understand trip dates, being able to understand, a campaign that you ran, and specifically how that's coming back to your destination in terms of hotel bookings, revenue, and average daily rate. But then also, we can kind of help close the gap in understanding, what loyalty looks like, what loyalty looks like, but then also, from a dining and event perspective, just being able to kind of close that gap and kind of help, all of our clients and specifically the team here on this call, just really understand that traveler journey as it relates to their media. And again, some of the other signals here from car rental, home ownership and finance. And again, just being able to help you sort of identify who these people are, even at a demographic and a cookie level. But again, that gives us over 190 billion data elements that we're onboarded that we can kind of work with our clients on to help them, reach their goals. And then again, just being able to see more with Adara's help. So just throughout the week, here on Wednesday, we're seeing someone is searching for a site, searching for a hotel in Vegas, or searching your site for a hotel in Vegas. But again, we help you see more of that and understanding, what that journey is for travelers. So going beyond that hotel search and seeing, are they searching for a rental car? Are we searching for a flight? Are we making dinner reservations? So again, a lot of the things that we're able to do here kind of help see that, provide that fuller picture. And then my last slide here, and we're going to kind of segue, into the questions and getting started with Eddie and Jessica. It's just, again, the journey from, more traditional soft metrics such as click-through rates, likes, and video views, which we're all familiar with because we essentially grew up, with those specific metrics. But talking about that journey and just kind of understanding, what that looks like, how's that changed over the years, maybe stakeholder needs have changed it, but moving more to more hard metrics like ADR, room nights, revenue. If your stakeholders are, a GMDOS who sits on your board, they're probably going to understand more the hard metrics such as ADR and room nights and revenue as opposed to, the soft metrics. So I kind of wanted to segue into that and really kind of start with you, Jessica, and just kind of understand, like from a historical perspective, and I can ask this question, Jessica, and then we'll get Eddie's thoughts too. But from a historical perspective, like what's that journey been for you guys in understanding, these soft metrics that, maybe you were using, back a couple of years ago, and really being able to understand, your marketing performance based on, more of the hard metrics like, hotel revenue, arrival lift, et cetera. So I'll kick that to Jessica, and then we'll get Eddie's thoughts also.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for that setup. So our journey to working with Adara really began in 2021. So I had previously worked at the department as the marketing and research manager, and have since transitioned over to CGRW while still helping manage the research products that we onboarded. So really what we were looking at is it was that conversation about the demise of third-party cookies and then our need to track how our ads affect the bottom line. So the most important KPI for Arkansas tourism is a 2% tax collection. It's collected on lodging, attractions, water rentals, and what that does is it funds the entire tourism marketing budget. It's been in place since the late 90s, and it really serves as like the true benchmark to monitor our visitation trends. And so while that's a great indicator of how tourism is performing overall, we really wanted to understand, how does our advertising influence that metric? So in the past, we had conducted some custom surveys, where we were asking them, did they see an ad? Did they then book a trip? How much did they spend? But we really wanted to find some hard data metrics that Adara is able to provide that would better resonate with our stakeholders. We report to commissioners, there's economists on that. And so they really want to understand, like, is that really what happened? So while the custom studies are useful, again, we had the budget and the opportunity and the appetite to really try something new. So we onboarded the Adara Consortium and Impact Tools, and this is where we can really track return on ad spend. And then we can share with our stakeholders, whether it's with leadership at the department or commissioners or our partners, really how our ads are directly attributing to hotel revenue and bookings, which then impact the tourism tax collections, which then funnel us back into the marketing budget. We also get very granular with our tracking pixels, so we can uncover insights at the campaign level, market level, audience level, and then even the creative level. So what we can do with that then is it allows us to see what's performing best and then how we can tap into that for future campaigns.
Awesome. Eddie, love to, to kind of definitely get your thoughts too, on that and kind of that journey for you guys. And I know, in our conversations, earlier this week, like it's obviously a little different from you, just, measurement wise, maybe state level DMO versus kind of what you guys are doing at a local level, but would love to get your thoughts on kind of that, that journey for you and your destination.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll start with my own personal journey. So, I started being the key role that's kind of reporting to our Tourism Development Council each month, starting about a year and a half ago. And so when you bring up, hard metrics and soft metrics, really like, um, it's been a journey to kind of understand, what is the best way to tell a story to these stakeholders. And obviously, a lot of the data that we're reporting at that level is our hard metrics. But then, we also, like every other, kind of marketing organization that has, dollars to spend towards, driving demand through marketing campaigns, we have soft metrics that we're trying to measure as kind of the benchmarks for how we're doing and how we're performing. But what we really need throughout, the year is to be able to tell the story of how those soft metrics connect and drive some of those, harder metrics like, room demand and things like that. So, it's really been a journey for me to be able to showcase that. And what I've learned kind of through the year and a half of standing up there talking to these people is really having as many directional sources of data as possible that you can have to not just look at one level of your return on investment, but to be able to look at the campaign holistically, to be able to look at individual channels and how they're performing, to really have as many keys to as many doors of data that you have possible to open up at your disposal has been very important for us. And it's what has helped us really build the authority and trust that we now have with our stakeholders and members of our community to really kind of illustrate that we are headed in a direction that we think is going to be successful, not just you know for one part of the county, but for the county as a whole.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think again, just getting you guys having like these two, awesome perspectives, because those are two, I won't say very different journeys, but definitely different journeys in terms of like you can tell that there's two different sets of stakeholders there. So definitely love hearing that and just kind of the evolution, of both your programs. I'm kind of want to shift now, and I'll shift to kind of my next question here and start with you, Eddie. Can you give us kind of an overview, kind of what you guys are doing, just like how you guys are specific kind of measuring ROI in sort of unforeseen ways? I'd love to get your thoughts on that, and then we'll kind of shift back to Jessica.
Yeah, I mean the ways that we're really measuring ROI, I kind of like to say that we have our direct data. So like we did just launch a booking platform recently with our site, and we're starting to see some real, bookings kind of come through and starting to understand, what those really look like from a like inside of the cash register perspective. That's been very helpful, but obviously we're not capturing you know any sort of percentage of the total bookings in our area. It's a very small percentage, so it's helpful, but it's not showing us a bigger picture. Within our kind of marketing campaigns, we try to track and measure as many possible things that we can, to really understand, was someone exposed to this, and did they ultimately book a trip to our area, and what does that look like? And again, like I don't think that there's any perfect system right now. It's just the state of our ability to track someone and understand when the decision was made is always going to be kind of a challenge. But that's one way that we look at things from a channel level, and obviously the Adara impact tool is very helpful from that perspective. And then we also look at ad effectiveness studies where we're surveying different populations that we know we've served ads to, and delivering kind of an overall idea of what our impact was. So there's a number of ways that we are trying to measure ROI. I will say that like there's some different ways that we kind of look at how we're doing within, I'm bringing up that kind of data that we report to TDC. And we, for instance, have seen like ad effectiveness really grow in the past few months. But when I was thinking about the unforeseen ways, we also try to pay attention to what we're influencing from that data and then what we're not. Obviously, we have seen our influence grow up, over the course of the year within our ad effectiveness rate of a visitor profile survey. So that's great to see. But then something like a hurricane can happen, and that can totally throw off the proportions of those two. So it's always kind of a struggle to make sure that you're telling the story. But really, I think um, just being able to take as much data as you can and then filtering it into that narrative is really helpful. And whatever kind of hard numbers and hard tools, it really helps illustrate that story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That you guys kind of have that booking engine in there because when I used to work at a DMO, I feel like the power of the booking engine and sort of the data and the insights that can be derived from that are to some degree undervalued. So it's great to see that you recently incorporated that into kind of your strategy. And like you said, it's not covering and accounting for every booking that's going on in your destination, but it definitely gives you a strong sampling and an understanding of how people are responding to your media, if it's tied to that, but then also the opportunities that you have, from a more technical perspective for data collection, being able to collect data on those actual, in this case, going beyond, the lookers and seeing what the bookers are doing. So being able to have that extra level insight is, I can imagine just that being extremely valuable. So.
I think that there's a real opportunity for destinations to take a hold of the opportunities out there to actually have booked experiences. Maybe it's not, a hotel room, but to be able to have something that's a little bit more tangible. Yeah, another thing that we've seen is that more people pre-arrival are utilizing social media. I mean, basically every survey out there, whether that's the State of the American Traveler or MMGY survey, they're all indicating that people more and more are using social media to plan their trip, and they're less likely to sometimes use OTAs or to use review sites and things like that. And that's an opportunity for us as DMOs to be out there in that space and to maybe have a direct promotional opportunity within certain channels that we can really start to see more of a direct, like, this is what we did on social media, this is the bookings that we got, did this work? Maybe let's reinvest in opportunities there. So it is an interesting time to be out there as a DMO.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Eddie. Like I want to and shift to Justin, kind of ask that same question or that same original question, and just talking about what you guys are doing, to sort of measuring ROI in some of those sort of unforeseen ways, and kind of talk about the programs that you guys have in place.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we use a wide variety of measurement tools. We have robust media metrics, lodging data that isn't attributed to advertising, geolocation data, State Department visitation metrics that are provided. So there's a myriad of data points that we look at, either to indicate, how we should shift our campaign strategy, or to show travel intent outside of advertising, and then to report on campaigns post-launch. So again, we needed a way to connect the dots to show how ads are translating into those actual bookings and revenue. And we do that with the DARA Impact and Consortium, but we are a very rural state, and it really becomes challenging to show how ads are impacting the communities, especially when there are no large hotel chains in places with those lower populations. So we really wanted to ideate, how can we enhance market visibility? I think currently right now we have about 30% market visibility with the current lodging partners. And we do report on direct booking data. It's just something that we're more comfortable with, even though they do have great modeling tools to show what that can look like expanded to 100% market visibility. So we really began to ideate, how can we onboard some of our more locally owned boutique lodging partners? And it's really been something that we're driving home with the department. And we had to make sure that we got our stakeholders on board. So as we began these conversations, we have their buy-in. So with Arkansas Tourism, we're under the same umbrella that also manages Arkansas State Parks. So it's really a sister agency. The Arkansas State Parks, you can book reservation, you can reserve lodging, water rentals, all kinds of services. And so what we were able to do is add a custom SDK, a software developer kit, that would then ingest those data points into the consortium. So what we're able to see with that is, if a specific ad influenced a direct booking at a park and when they stayed, what they booked. Was it a campsite? Was it a AAA? Did it have a water connection? So we can really see at a granular level, because we own those data relationships, which ads, which creative influenced a booking to that site. We have 52 state parks across the state, and a lot of these are in those rural areas. So now we can see how our ads are adding to the economic impact in those areas. And again, we're still in the process of adding boutique hotels. We're going to onboard some attractions. There's an ability to do some airport tracking, and really any other online reservation business that is not part of a large chain. We're very lucky at CGRW to be able to have a lot of these relationships with some of these boutique hotels through our travel and tourism sales team. So the outreach is going, that smooths over the outreach, not just on our own, but with Arkansas tourism as well. So again, just really trying to create robust views of how these ads are really impacting those smaller communities. That's something that's really been at the request of not just Arkansas tourism, but our partners. Again, just to show that these people are paying taxes to fund marketing budgets. So we really want to be able to show how those advertising dollars are then impacting their booking at their locations.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. Like I have an opportunity to talk to Jessica and kind of work with her on these programs. And what I really love about this is because they're getting so much bang for the buck because, with, just kind of some of the regular things you're doing, you're obviously seeing ad effectiveness as it relates to hotels, but, being able to have, for the boutique hotels, for, specifically for ones that we're, for whatever reason, not able to measure, or being able to see, parks and campgrounds, like, I feel like that's a next level of measurement and attribution. So I always get excited when we have an opportunity to talk about these things because this is kind of where things, should be shifting and should be going. And the ability to work with you guys and kind of put that technology on that site and see, how that ad is influencing and influencing that. And also, I know it has to be a thrill for you guys to be able to share that with your stakeholders because again, these are things that they're probably not seeing. So they have an opportunity to just kind of really understand, everything that you're doing and how that, how that money is being spent, essentially. So it's amazing from that perspective. I wanted to circle back, Eddie, because I know you guys are doing something similar with some of your, event level impact programs, and I know you have the SDK that Jessica mentioned, sort of on the booking engine site, so you're able to see measurement, kind of at a similar level. But talk about like kind of what you guys are doing, with the event specific programs that you're doing and how you kind of roll that out to your partners and you know kind of what you hope to see from that in the long term from an attribution and a measurement perspective that kind of show the value of all the things that you're doing and how you're spending that money.
Yeah, so we have an elite event program. We actually just had a webinar this morning. So if any of you guys have great events that you would like to run in St. Pete Clearwater, feel free to fill out a submission form.
There's the
Um,
pitch.
but but anyways, as part of that, once we've kind of gone through the levels to say yes, we want to support this event, there's a number of kind of sponsorship agreements, and one thing that we try to include whenever we can is an SDK on the Elite Event website, so that way we can really understand, you know, who visited and essentially, if they visited the website and then they booked it, and it really helps us kind of um, understand at least that behavior of those events because we have a wide variety of events. They all take all different shapes and sizes, so that part is really helpful for us. We don't have, I mean, we are membership based we are not membership based, sorry. So it's a little funny for us otherwise because I know a lot of DMOs, have dues and there's a different set of agreements, but this is one instance where, in order to kind of get the funding, you do have to sort of play nice with us and agree to, certain things and the goal is to really be I understand the elite event, program itself. So one thing that we do try to do is just be transparent with, what data we're seeing. We have gotten when we do get pushback, it's more about, what are we tracking these people, across their website and all the activities that they take, and we don't want to, steal that website's data and value. But we are asking them to basically put in the SDK, so when they visit the website, we're able to understand if they later book the trip. Um, and yeah, I think our approach has been, if we are open and transparent about what we're trying to achieve, most people in the community want to work with us. So, it has worked fairly well. I don't think we've gotten too much pushback, other than sometimes, like, these elite event organizers, probably like Jessica's, smaller communities, don't always have the expertise in implementing the SDK. So that has been a little bit of a process.
Oh yeah, and that just kind of leads into my next question. And to a certain degree, you kind of answered it. So maybe I'll kind of push to Jessica and we can circle back on it. But yeah, I feel like, because having worked at a DMO, I remember that phase of trying to do something new, trying to push something out to the community and having I would say those objections. So just being able to overcome those objections. And it sounds like kind of what you guys were doing is just like you said, just very communicative, very transparent in terms of, what you want to get out of this, as an organization, but then also, what you want to get out of it as a destination as well. So Jessica, like from you guys' perspective, when we're talking about, pushing this out, like we're getting ready to roll out this program to boutique hotels. And I know you mentioned Arkansas Parks and Tourism is a little bit of a little bit of an easier sell because that department's internal, but talk about that process, of overcoming objections or kind of how you communicate or how you will communicate to partners the value of what you're doing and and how they're going to see value from it.
Absolutely. So to start back in those conversations in 21 and 22, we spent years informing and educating our stakeholders at our commissioner level. They are the ones that we have hoteliers, influencers, media reps. So it's really a broad example of different people in different fields that all relate and funnel up to tourism. So we really wanted them to understand in each meeting that we met monthly, we talked about what Adara does, how it functions, to really get them to understand the benefits and that it's a trusted source of truth. So once we got them on board, we really started talking about how are we going to now show, begin ingesting the partner data. So with Arkansas State Parks, we were able to create a custom dashboard that pulls in those first-party data points so that we can show the value of how these ads are attributing to bookings and revenue at each park. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, by lodging type. Did they book a yurt or a campsite or a cabin? And so we're using this as a model to then frame how we can create a benefit and a value add for our other partners. So having that, year and a half to ingest that data and to really see like, okay, have we driven results with Arkansas State Parks? Are they able to then use this into their own first party audiences to target? And so now that we have that foundation, not only of understanding from the stakeholders, but also some real world examples of how this would look if a partner were to jump on and allow us to ingest that data. That's been really helpful. Jeremy, you and I and the tourism director, Delaney Thomas over at Arkansas Tourism, we're currently working on some materials that really will help with that outreach. We want to show the benefits of allowing us to ingest data and then present that to the partners. We want them to also understand that we're going to use this data in a very ethical and privacy compliant way. So I think that's really something that our commissioners, when they're out in their communities, can help to promote that piece of it. And then another value add, again, would be to allow our partners to target from those first party audiences. So once we've been able to collect that, and we can talk about that when we talk about that portion. But again, just trying to show the value that we're getting all of this information and then what's in it for you.
Yeah, I think that's, because having worked with, back in my days at the DMO, like that partner conversation about what have you done for me lately is kind of always there. So I was wondering if you guys could speak a little bit more to that, like that conversation around, what have you done for me lately? And has anyone ever had like, if they want like a direct benefit versus an indirect benefit, like how are you sort of overcoming that challenge in your conversation with them? Or is it just like, you benefit because we have this data and we can sort of, engage and interact on it, on your behalf? Like, can you talk a little bit more just about that conversation? Is it also like you mentioned, Jessica, like showing them the reporting, getting it up and running, and then showing them like, here's the value of what we've been able to do for a specific date range or specific, time range. And Eddie, would love your thoughts there too.
Did
Uh,
you want?
yeah, you go ahead first.
So really just adding to what we were talking about, showing the value for our partners. As we collect that first party data, we can create those custom audiences to activate with our digital media providers like Adora. We do campaigns with you, Basis, Meta. And so what we want to do with that is also show how we can retarget people that have booked at these partners locations to encourage them to book again. People who have maybe searched for their location and then promote to them again to get them to book, or just to create lookalike audiences from those who have booked to capture a new audience set. And we use first party data sets in our targeting. So we recently reviewed some basis reports from this past campaign in fall and winter. And what really stood out to me was that we were able to see that in most cases, Adara data-driven tactics drove about 50% lower cost per conversion or cost per click than the traditional audience segments. And it also drove a higher click-through rate. So when we see that we have higher CTRs and lower CPCs, that almost always correlates with more bookings to the destination. And that is just such an important KPI. So we have the data from our own first party audience activations that show that those are more high value than just traditional audience segments because they've either already shown intent or they've already booked. And so we're able to, through the work that we've done, show that that's another value add. And we at CGRW manage all of the co-op programs for Arkansas tourism. So we're able to then pixel the co-op ads and add, SDKs for those places that have it, then send them the first party audience and either target them for them through a co-op campaign or share that audience set with them so that they can use it in their own way.
Yeah, now before
Wow.
I jump in, I'll go back to you, Eddie.
Yeah. Well, first off, that's very impressive. Congratulations. Um, and so, yeah, as I kind of said, we are not necessarily a dues paying membership organization. So, our relationship to partners does take a little bit of a change there. However, we couldn't do what we do without the support of our tourism community and without the support of our local community. So it's really important that we hear them and that they also have the ability to talk to us. I would say that that's just important and inherent in our kind of culture that if the Dali Museum wants to talk to us about data, we're going to find time in our calendar to talk to them about data. So there's that, but I would say a lot of the goodwill that we've kind of won. We recently completed our kind of post hurricane campaigns, the Still Shining campaign. And we really focused on a lot of the local businesses and community stories. So there was a lot of goodwill kind of won um, about that. But the other thing that we've really been doing is focusing on what we think our marketing strategy is going to be to be the most effective marketing strategy that we can present. And one thing that we looked toward is, we have our top market in terms of geographic location is the Tampa Bay region. So, understanding that we really need to focus on a regional campaign. And oh, by the way, that's a perfect campaign for us to involve our partners and focus our co-op marketing opportunities around that, just kind of understanding what works for us at the same time, what would be helpful for our partners and, finding where we can marry those two together. It helps us keep in communication with them and it also helps us develop, useful and meaningful programs for, those individuals. And then finally, we kind of in the effort of being transparent and open, we launched a annual meeting where we really showcase our upcoming marketing campaign. And what we've seen is that a lot of the businesses will then take our kind of campaign and then start to use it for their own promotion and their own ideas. And that is like exactly what we want to happen. It's very exciting to see that integration. So I think really just, the community engagement at multiple levels where it really works to kind of push both the DMO forward as well as those businesses forward has been very successful with us. And then, with regard to kind of utilizing our first party data, I think everyone on this call, probably the majority of their visitors happen to be repeat visitors. So that's like if we should be focusing on collecting what information we can on those visitors because that will help us really target that market and help us in our marketing campaigns and that's where the data consortium kind of comes into play is like okay we've collected that data we need to put it with other data so we can match these profiles and then have a really effective marketing engine machine that we're kind of feeding. And it's kind of coming full circle. So, we've, yeah, that's just
Yeah.
the number of ideas out there, I guess.
Well, Eddie, you said something really great. You're sharing all of this transparency with your teams and your partners, and that's something that we really like to do too. Is we like to share out the markets we're entering, which ones are very successful, so that when they're targeting their ads, they can run alongside us. And so that way they know, what is priority for tourism, and then does that translate to their destination, so that we're all working together for the same goal. So.
I love hearing this from you both, and I'm admittedly sort of flashbacking and kind of geeking out, and I won't spend too much time on this to my dissertation. And part of that was talking about like how DMOs and communities are, it's always great when they become in sync with their partners. And like how you were saying, they're kind of taking your messages and kind of, running alongside and kind of almost going you're kind of running in pace with each other and they're kind of using your messaging. Like that's amazing to see because, and I won't bore everyone with the inner workings of social capital, which was sort of the topic of my dissertation, but that was one of the highlights, from the research that I had done in that search about how impactful that is and how it can lead to a more successful destination if everybody is in sync. It's kind of this concept that we call cognitive social capital, but it kind of lends into this notion that everybody's on the same page, and when everybody's on the same page, it leads to more positive outcomes, for the destination. So love seeing that in practice. I'll reach out to you separately for the paper that I'm going to write. That's shout out to the academics on this call. But love seeing that. So I really think that's amazing. Just kind of, you both are kind of seeing that synergy, within your partners and the destination. And lastly, I kind of wanted to, and Jessica, you kind of dove into this earlier, but I'll kind of start this question with Eddie, and then maybe we can dive into some Q&A if there's any questions from the audience. But wanted to talk about, I mentioned in the early slides, kind of future-proofing technology, and talking about first-party data and first-party audiences. And Eddie, I'll kind of start this question with you. Like, how important is that to your strategy, moving forward? When we think about long-term, the deprecation of cookies, whenever that happens, but like, what's that look like for you guys, and how important is first party data to you maybe personally, but as well as to your organization, kind of your marketing efforts moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think let me think about how I want to say this. I mean it's incredibly important. The first party data is extremely important. It's a lot of what I think about on my daily life. If I'm being honest, I've got a PDF pulled up of like all the different data collection points that we have in our system. So we're trying to understand where we're collecting data and where the visitor might be at within that journey. For example, like um, we have at these elite events, we have an activations team that's out there and they're collecting data, and we're trying to work towards a way of like collecting, one set of data and uh, prescribing different outcomes if they're a visitor versus another set of data if they are a local. And we already know that they're in market visiting, so they are at a certain stage in that travel cycle. Whereas, there's other data that we collect where they're at a totally different stage. They might be up kind of in the planning realm, or we, have collected data just from visiting the website, and we know something about them, but we don't know, all of that information. So really, like what we've started to embark on is um, mapping out that and then figuring out what we want to do with those different data sources. So, I think DMOs need to start thinking about how they're collecting what, customer records they are collecting and what that looks like and then what they can do with it. I think that marketing should kind of come in a full circle, to that end. As I said, our biggest audience that visits our destination is a repeat visitor. It's about 80% of all of our visitors are repeat visitors in some form. They might not have come, the past year or the year before that, but they probably came in the past 4 or 5 years. So as many people as we can get to kind of repeat their visit while also thinking about, okay, where are these other places and cities that look like this audience, but we don't haven't established that as a foothold in our marketing plan yet. That we think about those places as well. So when visitation maybe starts to come down in other locations, we can reemphasize where we're bringing people into our destination to enjoy the vacation and to support our local industries. So um, did I answer the question at all? No, I just went on a tangent. And
Hey, we love the tangent, but yeah, no, I think it answered the question. And, to further that, I know that like, we've sort of been on the speaker circuit, and Leroy from our team is, has a really great infographic about, the use of, some of your first party audiences and performance in campaigns. So it definitely kind of helps hone in on, at the campaign level about finding those right audiences and kind of hitting them, because we know who they are. Like you said, 80% of that is repeat visitation. So we kind of know who those people are and we can cater messaging towards them. But Jessica, I know you had kind of mentioned that earlier, in terms of first party audiences, but similarly, like, the importance of it to you guys, and kind of your efforts moving forward.
Yeah, so I know I'd already touched on like how we use the first party audiences from our consortium, but I think it's worth mentioning too, just our email marketing program. Those are email addresses that people are directly giving to us. We also have the zero party data when they send us their interests and their segments. And what's interesting is Adara is able to, we can add pixels to the emails now. So it's not something that we've done just yet, but it is in our pipeline. And I think it'll be really interesting to see, from those people who have given us their email address directly, does that encourage bookings? We can see when they click on an email, if they're clicking on the book now or the learn more button, but are they actually booking when they go to those sites? So I think that's just another piece of using first party data that isn't directly tied to Adara, but can still build into that machine.
Awesome. Well, I think we've kind of come towards, I won't say towards the end, but I wanted to see, and Sarah, I don't know, I can't see, I haven't checked out of my screen to see if there's any questions, but would definitely like to open it up, to the audience, if there are any questions for me, or for Eddie, or for Jessica. Let me stop sharing so I can kind of see what's going on here, but would love to take a couple of questions, from the chat or from the audience. Yes, Michael, the academic use of data. Yes, academics nerding out. Love to see that. Um, I didn't plan to make a plug for us, for us academics at the beginning, but it just kind of naturally evolved. So love it when that happens. But any questions, like I said, we can kind of go into a Q&A mode if anyone has them out there. I don't see any at this point, but I'd love to take some of those. Let's see, I guess any examples of working with academics? That is kind of slowly evolving. I think there's always an opportunity, and Eddie and Jessica can, feel free to tag along and speak to this. But I think there's definitely always opportunities to kind of work with, the academics on this side and kind of bridge the gap. That's one of the reasons that, why I went back to school to kind of, to get more of that academic mindset, kind of bridge the gap so that there are opportunities to kind of, to learn from both. And I can't even imagine, just the amount of, data points and opportunities for collaboration with academics, just kind of based on some of the amazing work, like just from a collaboration perspective. And I'm going to dive into academic literature here, but collaboration wise, and then just kind of measuring overall effectiveness of marketing programs. I don't think there is any limitations in terms of what can be studied from what Jessica and Arkansas Tourism and CJRW and Eddie and teams have been doing. So can't speak to anything specific, but I definitely feel like there are opportunities here to sort of to dive more into that and have these greater discussions about, the academic study of kind of, some of the amazing things that they've been doing, whether that's from a case study perspective or otherwise. There's plenty of opportunities there. I think
Yeah,
that's all.
we've worked or been reached out with some local professors. Obviously, living kind of in the Tampa Bay region, there's quite a number of colleges here, and a number of them with emphasis on hospitality. So I know that we've worked and supplied data to those individuals, and I also know the University of Florida has a really great hospitality and research program, and they've at times reached out to us. The one that kind of sticks out in my mind, and it's not academic, but at the state level, there was some evaluations that were being put into the park trail system, basically biking trails. And with our data and what we had, we were able to kind of be one of the very few destinations in Florida that was able to kind of provide a, useful information for them. So I know that we're always, happy to work with people who are going through academic studies. Both my grandparents were professors and my dad was a professor, so I'll always open up an email from a university and see what how I can help. But
Awesome. I think we got a question here from Stan. Was there any discussion on targeting Canadian tourists or any other international tourists? Jessica and Eddie, just in terms of Canadian tourists, targeting wise with some of the programs that you guys have been using. I was wondering if anybody could speak to that.
I'll speak to where we are right now is we're really looking at all of different industry research, our own data points like web traffic or visitation trends, air arrivals, things like that to look. And right now we're really evaluating our international program. So I don't have any specific answers on targeting as this is something that we're reviewing, but we're trying to look at the entire landscape, not just what it is like that we're seeing on our own channels, but what is the sentiment overall in the industry and not just related to tourism, but from a myriad of data sources. So
yeah, and I mean I can't really speak to anything specific. I would just say that we're doing a lot of listening right now. That's really what we're focused on, and listening to our locals, to you know other webinars, to as many things as we can listen to, and including our data. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, and also from an Adar perspective, like, to kind of to jump on what Eddie said, I definitely think like it's important to listen or to be listening and kind of seeing what that overall sentiment is out there. But also, just kind of monitoring, the impact dashboards and kind of that, being able to understand, what that first party data is looking like to see if there are any dips or increases, and kind of what's going on with Canadian international markets. So, we do have the ability to, to kind of work with our partners and do that, looking, listening, and kind of monitoring approach that everybody needs to be doing right now, given, the current landscape. So um, I hope that answers your question, Stan. But any additional questions from the audience? If not, then I'm just going to assume that between Jessica and Eddie and myself, we just killed this presentation. We answered every question possible, and there's nothing left on anyone else's mind. So if there aren't any other questions, I know, oh, here we go. Has anyone tried to align metrics with the marketing funnel in an effort to gauge performance at each stage? If so, what kinds of metrics have you allocated to each stage? And that is coming, I believe, Lamar from, shout out to the Bermuda Tourism Association, Lamar. So um, any thoughts on that one? And some of these might be things that we can follow up on if we don't have any insights now. So I'll just kind of mention that. But Jessica, Eddie, any thoughts on this one
Yeah,
about
I mean, just in general, we've had long conversations about what should be a KPI and what shouldn't be a KPI. And we have, a number of internal KPIs that we report that try to kind of address our marketing funnel performance. So I'm looking up here because I've got them taped on my wall in the back, but like, you know, in terms of kind of that top funnel, we're really just reporting on the total ad impressions, knowing that we've put a lot of thought and effort into how those are being delivered and where they're being delivered. And then, from an engagement, kind of that middle funnel tactic, there's really a number of different metrics from that perspective, whether that's social media engagements, engaged site users, email clicks, calendar page views. We have determined like a variety of kind of engagement measurements, and then on the low funnel, that's where it gets really tricky because there's certain tools that will measure parts of your plan, but to kind of get a holistic view, right now what we've looked at is our ad effectiveness study. We do look at visitor spending attributed to marketing. So there's a number of kind of metrics that are more formula based when it gets down to that lower level funnel. And we just again, it's I feel like it you could almost have new metrics every year because the the question of what's the most effective way to make our marketing work for us is a problem that constantly shifts and changes. So in certain years there might be metrics that are very important, like saves and shares on social media. That wasn't a metric that we were thinking about last year, but now it's one that we're putting at the top of like key engagements on social media, because we know that people are planning their trips on social media, and those are the tools that we can use to say, oh, okay, they're saving these, we have a high likelihood that someone might actually come and visit from that certain behavior.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Eddie. I want to be sensitive too. I know to kind of go into the end here. So we're going to go ahead and sort of end the questions, but thank you everybody for your attendance. This is definitely a meaningful conversation that we were all excited to have. So I want to thank Jessica and Eddie again for their time, and just really shout out some of the great work. We'll be sharing this deck and our contact information. I know TTRA is going to share a recording of this video within the next day or so. So any additional questions, we're more than happy to kind of engage with anyone directly. But Sarah, I wanted to pass it over to you because I know you had a quick announcement.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Jeremy, Eddie, Jessica. Great insights. Thank you for sharing everything. And thank you to everyone for attending this call today. As Jeremy said, if you guys have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will be sending out the recording, as well as Jeremy will be having the slide deck and stuff like that for you guys at your disposal as well. So you're more than welcome to reach out in the meantime. And just to wrap things up, I do have one last message from TTRA with our exciting new opportunities for members. But before then, I want to thank everyone again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I'll go ahead and share a quick video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Whitney Nollenberg. And I'm Anna Blunt. We're the founding co-chairs of the TTRA Think Tank Task Force, which is now evolving into the TTRA Think Tank and Member Webinar Task Force. We're so excited to share more about this new initiative and how you can be a part of it. The webinar you just watched is part of this program, which is soft launching in 2025. As a member-driven organization, TTRA is always looking for more and new ways to help our community share their knowledge and insights, and this is one more avenue for you. The Think Tank and Member Webinar Program creates opportunities for both academic and practitioner members to present their ideas in a 15 to 30-minute webinar. Whether it's your original research findings, case studies, or emerging trends, this is your space to share and spark conversations. If you have an idea for a webinar you'd like to present, we'd love to hear from you. Just email your concept to us at memberwebinar@ttra.com and we'll be in touch. We can't wait to see the amazing insights our members will bring to this program. Thank you so much for being a part of TTRA. We look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thank you again so much for everything. Again, one more time, if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out. You can reach out to TTRA at admin@ttra.com or reach out to Jeremy, Eddie, Jessica, however needed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thanks.